Alright, what's going on guys, it's Liam here and welcome back to another video on the channel, and in today's video I want to talk about the new stat caps in PvE. Now if you guys don't know what this is, essentially in PvP and PvE casual mode you have damage caps and damage intersections. So for example, if I put on my Storm PvE set, I actually have 262 damage at the top of the graph here, but I actually only have 240 as you can see on the damage percentile, right? So this is basically set in place so the devs can kind of moderate how much damage you do on your school. Anyways, a lot of people are actually upset about this because before this update happened, the damage cap was actually a lot higher at 280. I don't know if you guys remember my setup video I did a little while ago. It did really well. I think we got like 3,000-4,000 views on it about my 280 storm damage setup, and I thought that was really cool to go for because you have to have every piece of perfect gear just to barely hit that 280 cap, and it felt really good when you did it. Now when you're all the way over the cap, like 262 or that 280 build I showed in the video, it just gets all capped and it's just a waste of a stat at that point. Now, I know some players do like having a cap like this because then they can go, you know, invest into some other stats like, you know, maybe some more Pierce, some more Shad, some more Crit, and stuff like that. And I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily. However, I think for PvE, I don't think players really want to change their PvE builds. Now, I could be absolutely wrong on this. You guys can correct me in the comments below if you'd like, but we've been using this pet for a little under, maybe over 4 years now. If you're a PvE whiz head, you own this pet on your respected school, typically, right guys? Now, this pet is obsolete with this new damage intersection and damage cap in the game, guys. You're gonna want something more looking like this beetle pet I have, if I can find it. I'm a little incompetent today, sorry about that guys. So yeah, you'd want this pet right here on the Philosaur. This would be the better pet to have in PvE now, okay? And the reason is because again, you're already hitting that damage cap essentially, so you might as well just beef up your Pierce in PvE. Now let's talk about the other side of the spectrum, and that's the players who feel like they don't need to chase new gear because the cap is so easy to hit, right? Like I said, a lot of people really don't want to change their gear and stuff like that in the game. They'd rather just keep their full damage pet, their, you know, Aeon hats, their Melody robe they worked so hard for in Novus at level 160 because that was a nightmare to get, no pun intended. And if you really look at things, right, you're really only giving up like about 2 damage and like, you know, maybe some Pierce by just keeping your current setup, right? You don't really have a reason to go out and get the Reaver Aeon boots or whatever you want to call it with the Nightmare Dungeon in Wallaroo. And that's a common critique I've seen from the community is I feel like I don't have a reason to go out and get this new gear from the Nightmare or Wallaroo because my stats don't even get upgraded because of how low the damage cap is. For example, guys, right? If we look at the old damage cap, which I think was 220, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, at 160. Now in Wallaroo, you can sock it up to 11% damage tools on your, you know, Yathame, Ring, Amulet deck, right? So that's a whopping total of 55 extra damage you get, right? So on a Storm, for example, right? If I do my 220 build from Wallaroo and then add the 55 from, sorry, my 220 build from Novus and then do the 55 damage sockets from Wallaroo, I'm actually at like what, 275 or something, and that's again way over the damage cap. So I don't know, man. I also don't really like how this scales down as well. For example, if I take off this deck, I only lose 1 damage, right? You tell me 11 damage is worth 1 damage on the stat slider scale here? I just don't think that really makes any sense, personally, in my opinion. I don't like it. I don't know, it's kind of a controversial topic, I guess, in a way, because some people do like when they can, you know, fill in some stats, right? Like get rid of some damage to get resist, or more Pierce, or more critical. And again, I'm all for that. I don't really mind it, personally. I just think the players who say they don't have a reason to do Wallaroo and the Nightmare because of how low the stat cap is, I think they do have a very valid point, and they're just not going to simply play the game and farm the gear because they don't see their damage stat actually going up. Critical doesn't really matter that much, right? Because, you know, it's typically a huge multiplier anyways in PvE, sometimes upwards to a whole 2.0, which can't go any higher. Pierce, you just typically want to have that around 50. You don't really want to go over that in PvE oftentimes. And the one shad stat, which I'd argue is only obtainable with good PvE gear in a raid, which again is not accessible, it's just not realistic for most players to get, right guys? So I think most people are just gonna stick with their, you know, high damage builds with, you know, their frill and stuff like that, and not actually go and upgrade their gear in a Wallaroo because of how low the damage cap is, unfortunately. Like I said, I will be remaking this pet on my Philosopher to optimize my PvE stats a little more, and I might try and make a shadow build in PvE as well, if I can somehow fit the stat points in there. Ever since I've quit PvP, I personally don't really feel the need to go and farm all the gear on every single school and remake the meta pet on every single school anymore, so it's been a lot more peaceful of a time for me. Like I said, I don't really mind remaking one pet personally, because I used to have to make meta pets on all 7 schools, which was really expensive, took a lot of my time as well. But now, personally, I don't really mind just trying to remake this beetle pet on a Philosopher. Obviously, you know, pet making in ways kind of needs a whole audit. I think most people would agree on that sentiment. It's, you know, not really guaranteed you get a good pet. It's hard to get a good pet. It's very pricey, very time consuming. So yeah, I don't know, man. I know most players aren't, you know, huge whiz heads like me that can just simply make a pet overnight, or, you know, have the friends or the plugs to do that. So maybe I'm just sugarcoating things a little too much here, but I think, you know, changing a pet and changing the PvE meta every now and then isn't a terrible thing. However, I think the way they changed it this time really rubbed off on the players in the wrong way, right? We want to chase damage. We don't want to go chase like crit or maybe shad, but like not really anything else in PvE. Because if I can't see a noticeable improvement to my damage, I just feel like, you know, what's the point, right? What's the point in doing all that nightmare challenge mode for nothing if I don't actually feel like powerful or whatever, you know? And like I said at the start of the video, I really liked the fact that getting 280 damage on a storm, you had to have every piece of gear, right? Like, guys, you have to have the exact percentile on your pet, the correct set bonus, the just everything had to be spot on to get that 280 damage cap in the previous build of Wallaroo. And when you actually hit it, you felt like you accomplished it because it was so hard to hit 280 damage on a storm. And I kind of wish I had that back in a way. Again, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, you can check out my Storm 280 damage build, which was in the test realm of Wallaroo, guys. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to leave your feedback down there in the comments below, and I will see you guys on the next one. Thank you for watching, and take care.